Okay, you're going to play. You're done. Okay.
But I can play, Dad.
Huh?
Outside.
Yeah, go outside.
Where's Mom at?
You see her down over there?
No.
Look down by the water. You see Beaner? You see him? Huh? Straight ahead. What? Come and get your shorts, Bacon. You can go out as far as you want. That's all ice. All ice. Yep, ice. Go get your shorts on.
What's the shorts at?
And those two,
Those are the shorts one.
You know where your clothes are at.
Oh yeah, Batman. Dad, close my computer for me, please.
I will.
Just go into
After the tone, state your name, followed by the pound or hash sign. Thank you. You will now be placed into conference. To mute your line, press *6. To unmute, press #6.
You there? Hey, Clint.
Hey, what's up?
Another day in paradise. How about yourself?
Yeah, same. Yeah. It's like constantly trying to wrap my head around this CD. I probably should have done this walkthrough a meeting a bit ago, but sometimes I feel like I learn better if I push myself through and then ask questions later. So one thing before we get started, that like the Triptych team doesn't have these tables like documented what this stuff means. Seems amazing to me.
Well, there actually is a little bit of documentation contained within the database, and that was one of the things I was going to go over with you this morning. Log in. So, all right. You can see my screen, right?
Yeah, you are cutting out a little bit on that. You're getting a little robot-y sometimes when you talk, but we can keep going. I'll see if it gets any worse.
All right. If it's not good enough, just let me know and I'll just call in using my phone.
All right.
All right. The depths table in this F_IMX triptychs, the cat user groups, and anything that says Tomcat users, this USPS state types, and anything with this RCM is all stuff that the BI team is importing into the triptychs database. Has nothing to do with the triptychs application.
Gotcha.
The Tomcat users, the triptychs application, it uses this table, but only in the IMDX test database. So we pulled the table in here so that way we could report on users, you know, within the TripTix application because it's not part of their table set.
Yeah, so that was it. So this is like where their roles and stuff are stored in billing, even though they're TripTix roles.
Correct. Yes. And
Right. Yeah,
these are just very slimmed down tables, as you can see, like the depths and the Tomcat users. It's just the bare minimum for what we
Right.
needed on the BI side.
Gotcha.
So
yeah, one thing for the RCM one, how was that data identified on what exactly to pull in?
So we pulled this in based off of pretty much the canned reports that are out there in the public folders. We had to remake a whole bunch of those folders to reflect off the TripTix data, and some of those reports had a mix of clinical and billing. And so we pulled over only the data that would satisfy those reports.
Yeah. Okay. The ones that concern me the most, I guess, were those master bank ones. I wonder be curious as to what reports are used in those. I wouldn't feel like we would ever need that over into the CDX stuff, but that's like a full on. That's basically our like data repository that we use to update billing accounts for like insurance and stuff. So that was one that stuck out to me. All the rest of them made, you know,
sense
in general. Yeah.
Yeah.
No biggie. I was just curious.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what reports are tied to this, but I'm sure we could figure it out. It can't be more than 1 or 2, 3 reports.
Yeah, I would hope not. Okay.
Anything with a TT underscore, that's for the TripTix. Your main table obviously is the TT master incidents, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or the TT master incident. That's like the incidents table. No, not that's going to be like the run records table.
Right. Yeah, and I figured, you know, that's one that we're, you know, the problem is what I was looking for, you see that upload complete in there is, what does that actually mean?
Yeah.
I have a good idea how to find stuff.
Okay.
You know, using the view SQL and then tracking it down. The bigger problem is, what the hell does it mean? You know, like what does up mean to us in the system? Which I got that answered to me today. The interesting part is there's literally no documentation on what that means to, I guess, TripTix. It really means if it's null, the records are still not completed entirely out of the tablet. So my problem, you know, they create a new record on the tablet. It gets created a master incident record, but if it's not entirely, if it has a null upload date, it means it hasn't essentially fully completed off the tablet. Stuff like that where clients ask me these questions and I don't, you know, if it was billing, I could probably answer them a lot better, but when now that's TripTix CDX, I'm trying to understand the entire, you know, not only where the stuff is located, but what exactly it means to the system. Yeah, it was upload complete was the full name of it.
Okay. Damn it.
Yeah, it's essentially just the date. It's a date time, you know.
Is that in the TT master incident table?
Yeah.
A little surprised it's not coming from. Okay. Well, I don't know what to say about that element description or element complete or upload complete. But if you go through this element types, this tells you what the element is and what the description, the definition, and then what table it's stored in. And then the field within that table. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it looks like most of these element types are probably more like the standard NIM 3 value.
Yes, these are pretty much all NIMSys 3. You can go to version type. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and that data is pretty easy to figure out. We always just go to the NIMSys site and pull up their big data dictionary. So those are fine. It's the stuff that's essentially not a NIMSys value, and
Yeah.
stuff that's specific to our system or our processes is where it's going to get a little, like these. I can easily just look them up in the tab. I'm sure these definitions are literally the same in there. What are all these NVPN? I see those scattered about, and I wasn't sure what.
Yeah, so the NVPN has something to do with has something to do with this NIMSys definition. They have what they call not values. And I'm not exactly sure what the heck they are. Let's see. Where do we see those most often? Okay, yeah, they're defined up here if they have not values. So, no.
And there's like.
Yeah, I wanted to get all of these ones that say like D08 or anything that's like a 3-letter abbreviation. That means it's a NIMSys 2. These ones that have like D agency like this, that indicates that it's a if it has like a .03 rather than an underscore, that's an indicator that it's a NIMSys version 3. And then there you go. So D agency has a not value. What the heck? Stores not values. I'm not sure. And then so let's see what D agency 03 says here on the not values.
Yeah, I don't know how you have a not value. I guess my question is.
Okay. These are the applicable not values. Not applicable, not recorded, not reporting.
I wonder if those are like, I guess, once they go to the state or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just, if someone asks me, I want to have some, like what the hell is a not value? And I'll probably look that up a little bit further. But I noticed in this universe, there were a lot of subfolders of not values. I'm wondering if that's even like necessary in the universe to have. I know you guys just basically build out everything. And you'll know that I haven't really put in for the new universe yet because I'm trying to get a better understanding of all this, so that way if we start on that, we can know a little bit more what we need to bring in and whatnot.
Yeah.
So, all right. Yeah, that's fine. I have to figure out what a not value is. But basically, I'm viewing it as just don't mess with those at this point.
Yeah. And then, so the element types is where I get a lot of the definitions. The element type mappings. Let's see what that is, because I recall using that quite a bit. Oh, I don't know what that means.
So one thing I noticed too that was a little bit different from billing is there wasn't always a lot of type tables corresponding to the IDs. And I think we found that a lot of them are because they're in that pick list item.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm trying to understand, that was something that we were really interested in understanding was the pick list items and why. And my thought was the reason why we don't really have a type table for those are because the client's going to essentially modify and edit those on the fly. So it probably just, is that how you understand that, like pick list items table?
Yeah, they can be modified. I can't remember off the top of my head where they're storing it in the database. I can certainly find it, but
like here, I'm gonna send you a query that we were looking at.
okay.
We noticed in the table, like it had essentially it has this, you know, it lists the procedure ID. We saw some other stuff in the procedures table that was like successful ID, and then that ID, the value actually comes out of the pick list.
Yeah.
So it's not, you know, like we don't have a procedure successful type table. It was just, you had to pull it out of the pick list items to kind of get that definition. Yeah, see, like on this one, you know, there's not a procedure type table. It's probably in the description.
Yeah, and what happens is, let's see, we want, so you'll notice there's an item type ID. And then if you select there's an item items. Certainly not the mappings. What the heck's going on here? No.
This is essentially what we've been doing too. Like, well, maybe it's in here. Maybe it's on here. Where the heck did these IDs, where do they get the values? We did notice too that like some of the objects in DO, like for a specific one is like the procedures event type. It was essentially looking like, can we look at the procedures table real quick?
Sure.
That one was an interesting one for sure. Just TT procedures. We're working on some reports based off of the procedures here.
Yeah.
Yeah. In that event data field.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which seems to just be a big string of text. And then we noticed, like, for the procedure event type, it was pulling, you know, it was like a substring out of the event data to pull the type, which I was wondering if that's, again, because we don't always store that type type, and it may be something the client has like customized. So in order to always pull a value, we have to base it off of this event data. But it seemed like that event data was like, it's just a big text field, info in it. If you scroll over at the end, well, those are null. I think I had some.
Yeah, I got to do a query
People-
around this. But yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's stored around brackets and everything.
Yeah, I have if you look at an ID from the other query I gave you, I know it's got data in the procedures table. Yeah.
I was going to say, unfortunately, business just standard JSON and columns and tables, but that has to be done on the back end. You can't do that with business objects, which is a real bummer.
Well, we noticed one object was set to pull, and it's that features event type object, and it was pulling that ID. And then I was wondering why it was sourced from there when I thought there was a type in this table itself already, and not the pick list, but the procedure. I don't know. I just didn't know why we would be sourcing out of there. I'm sure there has to be some reasoning. And my thought was because to make sure it's most accurate, because the way Frank Sloan and Mark Bennett have told me is CDX, basically the clients can kind of change everything they want and customize it entirely. So I think that's why on the back end here, we don't really have standard type. We just kind of take whatever they're sending as a type. Yeah, if you rerun it, it's probably because we're looking at all the pick list items, but in just the procedure table, I thought there's a procedure ID. So I didn't know if you knew offhand why we would look to event data column itself.
Sourced out of the event data for that column. It's because at the time there was no corresponding field in the database. I'm sure over time they're taking that event data, and where needed they will put in, they'll extrapolate that out into into another column.
I gotcha. Yeah, because see, there's that procedure ID.
Yeah.
That was kind of the event, and we actually put in. So that was the other thing. There's procedures ID, which is the unique record for each procedure, and then there's this procedure ID, which essentially looks like it's the procedure event type, but in an ID format. So in BO right now, we have this procedure ID map, which just returns random numbers, and without knowing what that is, it's pointless. But I think what it intended to be was that procedures ID, so you can get the unique one. But we put in a ticket to change that because that ID, and I think it's literally just an S is the difference there. So, but we need that procedures ID. It's kind of like, an incident transaction ID. We have that unique ID. But on some of our reports where we build the logic, we're doing our count for each unique procedure ID for each master incident ID. Because otherwise we were like, well, how on earth are we getting knowing what the unique amount of records here are? And the only other unique value is the date timestamp. But so we were like, there's got to be an ID in there. As soon as we got database access, we identified that pretty quickly. But yeah, we saw that event data and we were looking at it, and we were just trying to make sense of why it would point there if there was any necessary reason. But what you said is probably right. They're probably just storing that stuff in there, and then over time they've split it out to store in a field. It's probably kind of like in the run records, we've got that narrative that's super long, and then some of the stuff in the narrative has its own values and database, but a lot of it doesn't. So it feels like this event data is kind of the same in that regard.
Yeah.
So, all right, so what is the difference between, we got TT, but then like, what is TTS?
TTS are like, I look at those as like supporting tables, look at different lookup tables and stuff.
Yeah.
TTP, not sure what that means. It looks to me like it's more regarded to agency settings by the table names, whereas
let's look at that TTP agency settings table actually.
Okay.
This is one thing too. We keep getting requests for like, can you run a report or a query that shows all clients in Triptychs that have this setting set? And in VO we couldn't do that, but now that we have,
I see agency relationship. Where was agency settings?
on down.
Yeah.
Down in there.
Because it's lowercase. There we go.
Yeah. And then of course there's a setting type ID.
Yeah. Jeez.
So, I wonder if we can look at like the types, like that TCP admin configuration settings type, just up above a few tables. Yeah, keep going.
This one here.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to spend more time kind of going through this, probably, but
I mean, some of these, it's hard to tell, are they even being used anymore? You're really going to look at each of the tables to make sense of it all.
Yeah. All right, that's fine. Okay. What's on down? I think that's where you get into the TTS.
Yeah.
Table. So I've been digging around in Confluence just to see if there's any basic info on, any of these tables, and it doesn't seem like there's really anything. There's some more settings.
Yeah.
Like setting. Yeah, I gotcha. What's that CAD import method type? That was one question I had too. The CAD stuff. I see. There's just two. Okay. Like we have a Philly report set up. Essentially, I noticed there's two like ECAD sections in VO, and it looks like it just has different joins. One of them, I think, joined by the CAD ID, it said, and then the other joined by, I think, was the incident number. And I'm wondering if that has to do with like this import method type or something. Like essentially, the report we had for Philly wasn't pulling any data for Leon, but when I used the other ECAD tables, then I could get the data for Leon exported out of there.
So the deal with the CAD table, there's only one CAD table. It's this TTE CAD.
Mm-hmm.
It's the main table anyway. You always get a CAD number. You may not necessarily get there should be a master incident ID in here somewhere.
Well, yeah, I don't know if that's in the CAD table. I think that's probably why the join, because there's two sets of ECAD objects in a verse.
Yeah.
Point back to I think it's the join that.
Yes.
So one thing, and I saw we had some reports that are basically like CDX or CAD affiliation. I'm trying. That's a big project or a task that Jack's wanting us to do this year. Basically, wants to sell. We can do a dashboard is what he's been telling clients. CAD to CDX to billing dashboard, which I think will be possible. Like I pulled together a report. My struggle is just why did it? I had to use two different sets of objects. One works for Billy and not for Leon, and then the other set works for Leon. So I didn't know why, but I think we could build one pretty easily. If you pull it out of CAD, and then I could bring in the master incident ID, and most of them had values filled in, and some didn't. And then I also pulled in the account number from billing, and some of them had that filled in too, and then some didn't. Some of them you could tell they were recent runs that probably just hit CAD and just hadn't gotten to billing yet. So I think we'll be able to build something out nice there. The key is, though, I think, and the problem with, so what we're running into in general with building standard CDX reports is that none of the clients, or, I shouldn't say none, but the clients all have different values that mean different things. So it's nearly impossible to hard code. And that's one of the things that we're running into with the current canned reports. I think probably when they were converted over, the data that was used may have been relevant for one client, but then another client comes in and runs, and we've got all these filters on there, but those filters are named, the values are a different naming convention for a different client.
Yeah. One perfect example is the narcotics report. There's a million different ways that these agencies are calling. You have Noxaline. There's different ways you can call the same medications, and some call it something else.
Yeah. So, and I was we got a decent Narcan one. We kind of wild flag searched Narcan because then we saw some were like using some Narcan bag.
Yeah.
Wait, what a minute. But then we were looking at, there's a general narcotics report. So we've been taking a ton of heat for Leon County. They're basically my highest priority right now. So, and they're like, yeah, we've been running this narcotics report. And I'm like, oh God. I don't pull it up. I pull it up and I see we've got like a filtered list of a whole bunch of, medication names. And my first question is, okay, how many of these that we're not putting in here are actual narcotics? And then I noticed one of them, it was like named two different ways, but we only had one of them in the filter. So, they're like screaming and jumping up and down, like, why aren't these ready to go out the gate, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, yeah, I get you, but the underlying issue is and build report templates. And then, so say we have like a medication administration template report. Then when a new client comes on board, it's going to be up to, this is where it's like, what reason do I have to even do this? But we're going to have someone who basically customizes these reports for each client and put them in their own group folder.
Yeah.
The only other alternative I was thinking of, the only way that you could really do standard reports is if we took all this data and we set up mapping rules and did, like a data mart on it. So, but still you have to maintain for each client, what are their narcotic medications? And then either build it into, the problem is with the reports is they have to be based I'm just not sure what a better solution would be. It seems like,
I mean, either way you look at it, it's going to be a massive amount of work, whether you're doing individual, custom reports for each client, or you're going to decide and build out a data mart.
right.
The data mart, it seems like anything, we don't even have the resources to build it. So you're looking at 6 months to a year before we'll even see anything, it feels like.
Yeah. So this is my struggle, is I'm trying to figure out what's the ideal solution. And I keep coming back to, we set up canned template reports. And then when an agency comes on board, and this is where I might fight to try to get someone whose sole job is to focus on this. Like they work with like Frank Sloan and Brooke Binkier.
Yeah.
They're implementing a new client. They have a BO person essentially that's teamed up with them, and they're like, okay, here's your list of narcotics for this client. They document it. They go in and update all the reports for that, but then there still has to be some continuity in there with like, oh, hey, we also added this other medication too. My concern is the client, with them being able to just kind of set up their own values whenever they want. If we don't know that, then the reports are going to be broken. So the implementation team is willing to we're willing to push back on clients, or at least reformulate what the best practices are. Because one thing we noticed too is but even after that, the counts don't tie in properly. But one thing we noticed too is they don't always, so for Leon, they're not always filling in whether it was successful or not, and they're not always filling in how many attempts there were. So what we run into is you've got an IV event, but you have no indication whether it was successful, and you have no indication of how many attempts there were. So how do you handle that outlier? Then we also noticed, like for them, the ones they were filling in on the attempts, so there could be 3 attempts, but for one event. And then one of them was successful, yet we just so there's one event, it's got 3 attempts, but then a yes for successful. So really only 2 were successful, we're assuming, and then 1 was, but it's all under one event. So how the fuck do you break that out and to get accurate counts? We saw other agencies who were using it differently, where they were basically using that number of attempts as their chronological order of attempts. So they basically 1 event per attempt, but for the second one, they were putting it as number of attempts 2, because that was the second time they had done it, not that there were 2 times on that event. You following me?
Yeah.
So even there, you build a canned report. One, there's missing data because for whatever reason they don't force those. The NIMS usage in a different way. And when I went out to the NIMS data dictionary and I read what number of attempts should be, it was vague. I could understand why one agency may interpret it one way and one does it the other. So then my thought was, how the hell do you handle this? Now you have to figure out how each agency is actually using this object to even make sure the report makes sense. Because if you did number of attempts as a sum, for the one agency, it would be 3, but they actually only meant they did it 2 times, as opposed to 2 plus 1 on the attempt. So we're running into all kinds of crap like this right away, but at the same time being like insanely pressured by Leon County to build out all these massive reports for them. And they're mad that they don't exist already, but 2, I'm like, Jesus, this is a nightmare.
Oh, dude, they have their wish list of reports is massive.
I already built a ton of them for them, and they're pretty happy with what we've done so far.
That's good.
Yeah, they sent us the list. I've probably given them like 8 reports at this point. like, hey, take over all this, be the lead person on this. So we're trying to learn all of this stuff as fast as we can. Plus, we're not really medics, and we don't really have the history of the medic. To us, we couldn't look at a narcotics list and eyeball which ones were the values. I need someone to tell me what it should be, or have some kind of lookup area. So
I can't even pronounce half these names correctly.
Yeah, so that's the problem. And Leon is basically expecting us to know all this data. They told me that right on the phone, is that they don't understand why we don't know what all the medic terminology is, which, can't blame them. I don't fault them for any of their complaints, basically, but, it comes down to Jack just viewed it as reporting, and so he just assumes that anyone who's OCO reporting can be plugged in there, where, our specialty has been billing reporting this whole time. We're just kind of thrown into the CDX stuff, and also, make sure it all works.
Well, and the problem is the company's providing, as far as I know, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but no one is training anybody on NIMSYS version 3.
Yeah, I don't know. That's where I don't know. Like,
I never got training.
No, I don't think. Well, I think problem is no one really, no one thinks about this stuff at a big picture, and reporting is always last on the list, of course. Which we're trying to address that, but yeah, it's like I'm basically gonna have me and my guys. We have some internal training, but I don't even know all the EMS terminology. I knew all the EMS RCM terminology, but when it comes to the clinical stuff, this is like a new world for us. The run record stuff was pretty easy to figure out, but CDX is a whole nother level.
Oh yeah.
And Leon is basically demanding a full-on clinical reporting tool. They hate VO because they don't want to have to build this stuff. They want all this stuff already pre-built, fully QA. They don't feel like they should have to answer any kind of question, that we should just know what their criteria is. They don't want to even have to. So that's what I'm dealing with. Like, they don't even want to answer the questions that I ask them. They feel like that's not part of their job, that we should already know this stuff already, and we should be able to just take their request and build it exactly to their specifications, which is kind of new to me to receive it that way.
Well, and part of the problem why they have that mentality a little bit, and I think a lot of clients do, is because all of this NIMSYS version 3 stuff is new to them as well. So they don't necessarily know what they want.
Yeah, I think that's part of it too. And part of it as well is like, they don't know the mapping from Triptych to CDX, essentially, like the database. So what they see on CDX isn't really a NIMSYS 3 format. They don't know, like, if it's procedure 03 or 04. They just see their nice clean drop down menus. They don't know where that stuff resides though. So that's part of the problem too, is they're telling me stuff like, oh, I go to this tab and then it's under this grouping. And I'm like, I've never even seen a Triptych tablet. So when I'm asking, like, well, do you think it's under this field? They're like, well, I don't know. We were hoping you could tell us. I'm like, I have no idea. Let me ask Greg. So I've just been putting a lot of this back on the Triptych implementation team.
Yeah.
They're the ones who are setting up all this custom stuff. They should have all this documented, in my opinion. So,
now, have you seen actual Triptychs 4 application?
Nope.
Okay. If you see the application, it's easier to understand how it's broken up in the tables.
Yeah, I mean, I figured. The problem, though, is that, I don't know right away. So some of the stuff is like a custom configuration. And so when they're like verbally describing this stuff, it'd probably be way easier if I was sitting there with them and they were showing it to me. The problem is they're just verbally describing to me what they see on their TripTix device.
Yeah.
And then I got to figure out where that's being mapped over into our database. So a host of issues going on here that I'm trying to wrap my head around. I mean, I feel like I'm getting it for sure. And this would be helpful. Getting access to the database was pretty helpful. I should have done it a while ago. But so I don't know, dude. I don't know a good way or the best way, I guess. I mean, either way to offer custom reporting. I've never liked this for the get-go. Like, I don't like that we sell fully customized reporting. I don't like that we give our clients the ability to do fully custom reporting, because that's why our billing stuff got so crazy, because Rick just opened that stuff up to everyone, partially because he didn't want to have to build the reports. But you end up dealing with broken reports and stuff and asking why are people not just running your standard one? Well, because you told them they could build it and it was super easy. But I always tell everyone, BO itself is very simple. You're dragging and dropping objects over and you're defining your logic. The part that's difficult is understanding what those objects point to, how the database works. You know, it's really the databases that are the struggle. And so that's why we've got like Florida Department of Health wanting us to give them a fully spelled out data dictionary so they can start building their own reports, but they don't know what all that stuff means, so they want us to tell them what it means.
I'm a little surprised they're asking for that, because we've given that to them about 50
What have we
times.
given them, I guess?
Huh?
What have
I've
we
given them
specifically?
you know, a slightly modified version of what I sent you just today.
Yeah, so when I look at this, most of it has no, you know, there's no descriptions on a lot of this stuff. I think that probably is the issue there. They probably see this. One, it's probably way too much for them. That was the other thing, like, I don't know if we're to give them, or, you know, I don't know if they're even supposed to or allowed to run reports at a client level. I don't know how that's set up.
Yes, the state is, but the state's allowed to run it at a client level. They're allowed to see
what data, though? Are they allowed to see billing data? I don't know about that.
No, they're not supposed to see the billing data. Well, that's not necessarily true either, because part of the NIMSYS spec is there's a whole billing section part of it.
But that's like insurance and stuff that their medics are capturing. So I get that, but the part I'm talking about is like, should they see the payment information on each account and all of that? I don't think so.
No. They only need to see clinical stuff. They don't even need to see payment data.
Right, but the universe and the way it's set up now, they can pull in. Like, right, we're pulling in all that billing data and it's set up in the universe they have access to. So can't they theoretically just start pulling in all of our account level details?
Yeah, on the for at least all the state of Florida, yeah.
Right. So.
And I've been telling you know, Tout Vitas now going on pushing 2 years that I want to split up the universe, and you know, I'm just sick and tired of talking about it with him.
Yeah. So this is a good point. I guess I could ask Mark Bennett. He's kind of overseeing all the state stuff now, or even Ryan Mock too would be a good one. I think what we need to do is get someone to tell us or provide us what exactly is in their contract and what exact data points should they have access to. If they come back and they're like, only the NIMSYS 3 stuff, then yeah, you're right. We need to just scrape everything, that it'll be even more of a push there. So I'm gonna email and find that out, because I think the problem is right now, they have access to the CDX universe, which has access by default to all that billing data.
Yeah.
When I say billing, I'm talking about RCM.
Yeah.
And all that's out there now, and my guess is no one really knows that. So I think this will be a good push too. Because my concern was, I'm like, we're gonna send them this data dictionary, but do they need to know that this is like our billing account number and charges, payments, adjustments, write-offs? Like, we're pulling all that data into the CDX universe. So that's why I was asking, what is their security role, and is there any limitation? Like, do you think we could build a security role that limits them just to that aggregate data and scrapes out everything else?
Yeah.
Because if they're going to start digging into building reports, they have to have seen that all that's in there. And I just don't know what all they are supposed to be seeing, which I think is a good question.
They're supposed to see everything in the aggregate folder and then the EMS data set folder. The other folders, I don't think they need access to.
Right. So I don't want to send them a data dictionary outlining every object in there when they shouldn't be seeing that stuff in the first place. One of the tickets too, one of the things they asked to, and I didn't understand really the question, I just said I'd find out. One of the guys there asked, I think it was Gillen, it was one of the other main guys, I think maybe Josh Stearns, was asking for a what's their security mechanism, or what their security groups that they're in. And, I just kind of played, I'll find out, but I'm sure they're going to follow up on that. But I think the first step here is, what data should they be limited to? And let's limit them to that data, then generate or take this document that we have. I'd rather give them a data dictionary based off of the stuff you built with them and nothing else, which should lessen the scope of this quite a bit. Hold on, let me finish my note here.
Well, they are going to want a data dictionary quite possibly on the EMS data set. I would think the stuff in the aggregate folder, is that not all already defined in the descriptions, or did we lose that at some point?
I haven't looked.
Yeah, I haven't looked either.
You mean like in BO itself, like under the object?
Yeah, well, in that Excel spreadsheet, if the description column's filled in, that's what it shows in BO when you hover over it.
Yeah, that's what I was figuring. I'm gonna filter this down real quick. It was what, EMS? Where's the aggregate? What is that called?
CDX aggregate or something?
Yeah, maybe. Master incident aggregate. Yeah, only one of these has a definition in there.
That's too bad, because I know at one point I'll dig through some old emails, see if I can find it. I know we sent them a dance.
Yeah, so that's where I was a little bit confused. That's why I talked to you before I got on there, and I kept thinking like, well, you built this with Rusty, and he was telling me like this was your logic and I remember you saying like, oh yeah, they provided me all that stuff. I just built it to their specification. So when they asked for this data dictionary, that's why I was like, well, why don't you already know what all this stuff is? And then I was thinking, well, maybe they're meaning, they have to understand where they can. And I'm wondering if they're asking about all the other stuff we have in there, them thinking that that's stuff that they can be pulling. They just want to know what it is. But
It's back to the same question. What are you asking for?
Yeah. I was kind of new to their calls, so I was just trying to be a little more gentle. But I don't like to push back right away. But I get a little more
Yeah.
familiar with it, I'll start pushing back. So let me, I'm going to email Ryan and Mark Bennett. I'll put you on there. And I want to, as a company, and specific to our data repository clients, I want us to document or have a, what is their scope of data? Like, what exactly should they be seeing or not be seeing? And then let's turn those into security roles on the current universe. It's going to take a lot longer to build a new universe, but I think in the middle, in between, we build a new security mechanism to lock them down further. And then if we rebuild a universe, then we'll just kind of copy all those over just for them, and then give them all access to that universe, convert the reports over or whatever, so they don't have to do anything, but they're still basically seeing their same data. We can start there on that, and I think that'll be helpful, and I think it'll be helpful with the data dictionary question as well. But if you can try to figure out or find any of that documentation, this is stuff too that a big push is to try to get more of this stuff on Confluent. Like, I really felt like it was kind of, I imagine I could go into Confluent and search for like CDX database schema or something, and have anything. There's not like a page at all in Confluent that outlines any bit of what we're looking at right now. So I'm thinking, like, how do they develop new stuff or know what they even have, unless they're just relying on they know it by heart and they just know which tables do what?
Yeah, I mean, that's what you have. You have Jason and John. They cooked that application up and they know it by heart, and there's really not a whole lot of, at least that I'm aware of, documentation to go to. If you were to use one of us as a developer on their team, I don't know if they give new hires over there. They got to give them something, you'd think.
Yeah, and this makes it impossible for me to really build reports, because the first thing Philly was asking was, what does this upload date time mean? And if they asked me on the spot, I would have to say I don't know. I had to ask. I asked like 5 people, and then one person, Frank Sloan, was able to answer it for me. But we don't even have a record of that, so I got to rely on people who aren't always super responsive just to get basic info, which is another struggle with all this. But all right, so back to, I guess, we got to push to split these out, which I think won't be a problem. State level and then repository level, basically. But the agency level, but then even those agency levels are going to be 2 of them. It's going to be the EMS data set and then the agency level setting or whatever. The E and the D objects basically get all split out. But when it comes to canned reports, I mean, I think you basically have the same view that I have, is if you're going to make a canned report, we have to, one, know every value for every client that meets any criteria on the report, at least in a filtering wise. And that's got to be documented somewhere to make a canned report. Or we just set up a template report and make someone go in and, plug in all the filters, save it in their group folder. But then if that ever changes, then the clients are going to have to let us know. But either way, they're going to have to let us know. There's one thing we noticed too. What was it? There was this team activation field. It's basically if they're calling the hospital ahead of time, like, hey, we got a cardiac patient or whatever, so they can prep. All the standard NEMSIS values are yes dash trauma, yes dash stroke, yes dash cardiac. For Philly, they stripped out all those yeses. So it's not yes dash, it's just cardiac or stroke or trauma. And, so they were trying to run the standard report we have, but they weren't getting any results. I just looked at their data because they use different values than everyone else. So, I keep proving my point over and over again, like, you can't have custom reports. But if you see any other way or have any other thoughts that maybe I'm not thinking of other than a fully maintained, we have to have all these values documented at a client level.
I mean, it needs to be documented, but it needs to be, easy to digest. If a common person that doesn't know about, if someone like me or you have to be able to go in there and easily identify stuff.
Right. Well, I think that'll be part of it too. And I think for me, I think I'll learn. I'm going to take over your screen real quick and let me show you. One thing I always struggle with are like what should be canned reports. But Frank Sloan actually put together a pretty good outline here. Let me show you. And I'll talk to you about what I think my plan is going to be for CDX going forward, like basically starting right now. Sorry, my computer's running slow as crap. All right. So can you see this email?
Yeah, I sure can.
All right. So basically, like, we need to hire a healthcare analytics person to come in and do all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. I mean, he said we have the knowledge, we just don't have the bandwidth, blah, blah, blah. We need someone that knows all this info already, which sure, but, Jack's not going to hire someone. So, but what he did do that was pretty valuable is essentially outline what I'm going to use as like our core. This is what I'm going to, these are our groupings of reports,
Yeah.
and then I'm going to map all these out. And this is what I'm going to start building. Some of this we've already got, like medication. We've essentially got that already as a report, but I'm going to use this list here. His whole idea was we need to build out a clinical reporting tool, which I think ultimately to me that equals the Tableau dashboard as our tool. I'm not going to build some new tool. But what we're going to do is take his list right here as he's outlined and map out essentially what reports we have that satisfy these, what's missing, like really a gap analysis. Start with the reports and build out canned reports for every one of these. And so we have the query into Tableau to build all this into one big ass dashboard. I was glad that he actually gave some of this stuff. Some of it gets a little crazy, like find out who's wasting time with frivolous refusals. Like, yeah, that's nice, but how do you code that? How do you define a drug seeker? Is that a frequent flyer who is always with an opioid response type or something? You know what I mean? So some of the stuff gets a little more complicated, but I think what we're going to do is map this out. But ideally, what I think once we have all this mostly mapped out is pull this into some other data mart or something, kind of like we do with the current queries for Tableau, like where this runs every day.
Yeah.
And base our reports off of that, and then also have it in Tableau so it's all combined together.
Can you forward me that email?
Yeah, I will.
I'd like to get, it looks like he, just brought up some interesting points. I didn't realize he was getting his bachelor's degree.
Yeah. One thing he mentioned too, with some of the stuff, like he said, we run our queries against our primary databases, which allows bad queries to take the applications offline. Like, yeah, I think everyone, I figured that out now, and then even Mark Bennett today sent me a ticket where some query, why do we not have a slave server here? Is that just because no one thought about putting one in, or we don't have the money to buy one? BO and billing goes against that slave. It's like, the replication of production, but CDX is really just pointing right against the production CDX database?
My understanding is there's two databases, and for whatever the reason, they're both pretty critical. I could be wrong. It could just be one database. But either way, yeah, that's the way it is.
Yeah.
There is a slave out in Nevada, but for some reason that's not quite reliable for reporting, because maybe they dump it every month or something to do a full backup or something. I'm not sure what they're doing.
Yeah. So when I got signed up, or when I put in my ticket to get access for me and Taylor, Burkhardt asked me, do I want production or development? And I told him production, but it looks like he gave me full-on production, not like a slave. And then I see that makes sense. This too. But so this is kind of where I'm going with all this. One, it's all going to come down to tons of documentation. There should be no question, and this is another thing that Leon is stating, is that every report should be fully documented as to what it's pulling, what everything is doing, which I agree, but, when we're trying to whip these out as fast as we can, doing that nice documentation is always kind of the last thing I think about. But I think ideally what my thought process is, look to get rid of all the canned reports, or at least ones that aren't good for everyone. Try to come up with what the solution should be with value. He wants this to be a tool that any agency can use, which is fine, but here we go again with, are all the medications named exactly the same? If not, we always have to keep that logic up to date. But ideally, if you map all this out appropriately and keep it all up to date, it should work where we can confirm what all the data is. It's just going to be an insane undertaking to do all that. I might push to see if I can get someone hired in to help with that. Really, they got to be able to work with the clients directly and work with the implementation team, and also work with Triptych, and probably having a good medical background would be a good part too. But in the meantime, we really got to push forward. So I'll send this to you right now. This is going to be my list that I'm going to start building a roadmap on. What else did he put in here? Object map definition. This is where I think if we build a new fresh one, maybe we start with a universe that literally is based off of only the medication report, and we only pull in that data until we know it's good, and then we build the report, and then we look to do the next report, and then we build the universe to, we add in the other objects that we're going to need. That way we can do it step by step by step. Because part of what I'm thinking is man, if I ask for a new universe, now I got to think about what everything needs to be in there, what custom stuff. So now that I'm thinking about it, it may make more sense to just start at a report level, and we build the universe as we go. That way we build it, we document it, we build the reports, we document the reports, then we push it out to production. Then we move to the next one. Now we're going to do all the airway stuff. We bring in all the airway objects, make sure they're working how they should be. We do any custom stuff we need. We document that, figure out all the mapping, build the report. It's the same universe, but instead of building it all at once, we're building it related to the data we need. Do you think that would work?
What would work?
Instead of just building out the whole universe, we just start building it out piece by piece.
I think that's the only way to do it. These big, large data dumps of universes is just stupid. We probably only use 10% of the data in the universe as it is.
Yeah, same here. And why, those NVPN objects, we could go through this and determine not a single one of those is needed. So why even have it in the universe? I want to end up with a more simplified universe that we give to our clients, especially. So that's going to be my plan. We're going to go through these lists here, and we're going to start building out that universe step by step, and make sure that we're documenting. We got those descriptions in there. Any custom work is, we fully vetted it. We made sure it works for all clients, not just one or two clients. To me, the biggest work on here will be the QA. Running it for handfuls of clients and making sure and following down every exception of the data until we built rules around every single part of it. If there's no success rate, default it as a yes. That's what Leon wanted.
Yeah.
He wanted to default as yes. Get confirmation of that, and then we've documented it. And if a client has an issue, then they can question it. But if we have that in the report, if you didn't document it, it's going to default to yes. If you don't want that, you should push your clients to fill that in. That'll kind of be the thing. Right now, if they don't know, they don't know. All right. Well, I think that's what I'm going to do. So instead of putting in hey, let's build out a new universe, I'm going to work on responding to this. And my game plan is essentially going to be, we're going to set up a new universe. We're going to start on these categories. I'm going to get, them to kind of define what will be the high level categories to start with. My guess is procedure probably will be a very important one. Units. These are ones that we've already got reports, so a lot of this work is already done. So we'll get, it's not like we're building it completely fresh. We're building it around existing reports. So we'll just work through that process until we've got, and we should end up with a universe that's fully documented. It's mapped out. All the objects are mapped out and documented. All the reports are mapped out and documented. And then we have a plan for how to handle when new clients come on. You got to map this data, and we can work with integrations and implementation teams to make sure that data is coming in. So that's going to be my plan. You good with that?
Yeah, that works for me, Clint. And I kind of like the way you're going about it. Obviously, keeping it as simple as possible, the better.
Yeah. Frank even says that in here. He mentions the word simple.
Yeah.
I have to come up with some plan because,
I was laughing because I was reading his email here while you've been talking a little. I was kind of laughing a little bit because he says there, I think it's at the end of the first paragraph, we shouldn't need to teach a person why EMT basic doesn't need to be on an IV report. What's funny is we're trying to show the medic's name, but some of the names are coming through as EMT basic because of the way they're configured in the database and everything. And it's very specific to each client. Or there's a set that does it one way, a set that does it another way. And this comes back to your point of, we need to have more, instead of canned reports, template reports that we then customize. Because I think it's a bad idea. Right now we're selling this reporting solution that, this is the end all of your reporting, but oh wait, you guys are doing customizations and everything else. And now you're out 2 years away from getting reports because no one knows what to do now. Because we all said you guys can have this canned report and put anyone in charge of actually customizing them.
Right. Yeah.
And that's Leon's frustration right there.
Well, that too, and we've had them for a year. And it seems like apparently the CRM has been sitting on a lot of this stuff too. He's gone now, of course. But a lot of this stuff, and this is too, when we're integrating these people, and I talked to Mark Bennett, he's like, the problem is we've never really had a plan for how to tackle reporting. He's like, we don't even have a plan on how to tackle training. He's like, reporting is the last of the things, but you can't go sell all this stuff and then turn over what we've been turning over. So
yeah.
I think that's going to be the plan. I've appreciated Frank typing this out. He just wants to get credit for this whole idea, but he's really skimming over that this is going to be super complex. I think this is going to be a big undertaking, but I want to put it in a formal roadmap.
Well, I think there's a lot of about, what he's saying is what me and you've been talking about for years, and even the dashboards that we worked on. I think our company is terrible at execution.
Yeah, it is. I don't. So part of the issue too, they went to Leon County and told them that we'd be migrating them over to Tableau soon. And I'm like, well, who the fuck told you that? Why would you say that? Like, Mike Wallace hasn't told. Mike Wallace, I think, is under the impression that we're going to have like 20 canned queries that point to 20 canned reports, and then that'll be it. Because of course he's not talked to me about any of this, but he's like telling Jack that that's the future, but then no one filters that info down. Like, I feel like they're all just coming up with these ideas at a super high level and telling each other at a high level what the plan is, so that none of that gets filtered down to the people who are actually going to be doing any of this stuff.
Remember that exercise we did a couple of years ago where I flew over to Nashville for a month?
Yeah.
I feel like that was a waste of time.
Yeah, I mean, I feel, so this is where I go back to, all these dudes did was they came in and made this company look really good on paper to sell it. I personally don't think that Mike Wallace will be here after we get sold to R1, is my thought.
A lot of it's going to depend on what happens with, I feel the, with our current CTO. Because Mike Wallace is one of his people.
Well, yeah, but they came over with Joel Portis.
Well, the CTO came over with Joel Portis, and then the CTO, his name's escaping my mind right now. I don't know why. Jack Hemmer. That's right.
Yeah, Jack Hemmer.
He brought over Mike Wallace, Corey Hatton, and some of those other people, and his wife.
Yeah, they're all a team. They, as a group of people, this is like the fifth company that they've done this to. This is what they do.
Yeah.
They get brought on and they all go together. And my thought is, Joel's not going to be the CEO. He made the sale and he's going to leave. And I imagine Hemmer's going to go. They're going to look for their next opportunity as a team.
Yeah.
This is just what they do. That's why they brought him in. And I think that's why they make everything look good on paper, but then they don't really push forward with the plans. Like, they introduced the Agile and, let's make our development teams real, standardized and everything. But I've always been asking, why do we not have basic, why are databases still so crappy? Why is everyone talking about analytics, but there's no real analytics work being done? I think they just kind of set it all up to be like, wow, you guys got all this? And it's like, yeah, on paper, but the reality is totally different. I think that was their job, was to come in as a team and make everything look really nice and pretty and all put together. That way when they try to sell off, Andy Shields told me probably 4 years ago when Portis came on that they'd be selling our division. He's like, I can just tell. I know exactly what they're doing. They're going to sell us. He's like, it might be a few years, but they're going to sell this division off. You watch. And that's what they did.
I'll tell you what, it didn't really take them long.
No. I mean, he came in, they implemented, they came in and literally took over everything. Imagine Ginger Miller came in and got senior vice president of operations.
Oh, that's a scam.
She came in and got the top job and probably makes a fuckload of money, but
oh, you're damn right.
She doesn't.
They're double dipping.
Yeah, I work with her and she has no idea what she's doing.
She's not the brightest tool in the shed.
only got that job because they just come over as a team and they install all their people in all the high level positions and they just force everyone to deal with them and they just it's their way or the highway basically. And then
Hold on 1 second, Clint. Just 1 second.
Stay.
Hey guys.
Let's see, we waiting for you.
I know I'm going back outside.
Are you still?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm gonna go walk over here.
Go inside. Wash your hand and wash your feet inside. Next, Peyton. Oh my God.
So I don't see what the done.
You do the same. Because it's we don't want the same inside all of us. Go.
Mom,
Go.
Mom.
Go. No, sabi natin. Papa, pick. Oh. No, we wash it. Ew, it's a sandy. Ew. Oh my God. Ew, take it out. It's wet. Out. Say bye-bye. Bye-bye, pen. Where's the go? Oh.
Okay, get out.
Shit. You see what Daddy done? God. Now you see what he done to me. Hey, go get up on top there. You see? Go on top here, Peyton. And will be nice. Someone can help mommy pick up the mess on the floor. Otherwise, I cannot cook it.
Okay, I will.
You want bubble? Okay, no bubble. Wash the sand. It's not water. It's done, guys. Done. Happy teeth? Done? Sorry, let me say here. Let me clear this mess. Hold on tight. You got more fun?
No, thumbs up. Oh, baby has the chip.
Did you can get something snack for Samina?
Yeah, instead of chips, I'm gonna give her something else. Beat away. I have a special snack for you, Peter. Special did that one.
Thank you, Peyton. helping a lot.
Your special stack is
When we clean up the floor, and when we start cooking. Because everyone hungry, yes or no?
We should get a pretzel.
See all the sandy.
This is almost running out. Let's see if we have any more special snacks.
Yes, find it in there first.
Sabrina's the special snacker. No.
Thank you.
Sabrina gets the special snack because you've got enough. Because we're eating our chips. It's just Mommy.
Yes, mommy need to clean this mess up because that is spilled the coffee.
Mommy. Wait, Peter! I have something for you.
Diane, get some, Sabrina.
Oh, she does. He doesn't need. Peter! Apple!
Oh, you know what? We have to get nuggets, Mom.
Mom, leave the water open. Leave the water on.
And please, turn off it, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. So you know now why mommy need to wipe the floor? You know why?
Germs.
Yes. Because when you're rolling on the floor and the germ gonna be go straight to your mouth. And keep till that, take out the shoes. I will show you the video.
Here.
How the germ get inside in the mouth.
Then you ate most of the chips. Sabrina tree gets apple. That's her special treat. But that's not all. Our special treat. Orange! Finish the apple. Good job, Bina.
Okay, now nice and clean. Ready for lunch. Lunchtime. Let me close this. You want me to open the window? Huh? It's make it
Cold.
Huh? It's not too cold, but then it's gonna be hot in here. Huh?
Okay.
Do you want me to?
Sure, if you want to do it.
Let me wipe this fall out. It's so sandy. Mommy wish Mother Day, mommy gonna have that small vacuum.
You mean iRobot?
No, someone can clean up the floor when the sandy.
What about iRobot?
But iRobot is not nice. Too much expensive. Mommy just want something to clean the floor, the vacuum the floor. It's mean when sandy is mean easy to clean. Now you see it's so hard, mommy to clean the sand out.
Mom, why iRobot is not nice?
It's too expensive. And I don't think so it's gonna be good cleaning some like mommy.
Why?
I don't know. See now it's all the started blue.
Why?
Now you can see the water.
Yeah.
It's gonna be melt. Mommy wish we can stay until melting down. It's gonna be more fun with crash, 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 crash. Did you think?
And then we can have more fun. Right?
Mm-hmm. Now you start getting hot?
Mm-hmm.
Oh no.
No, yeah.
Oh, you.
Now we can turn it on. This is yummy. No, it's not you.
Oh yeah, baby. It's better now.
Yeah.
Mommy now. Mommy cooking, Sabrina.
Come here. You eat my apple?
No, she's hungry. Here, Bina. Chicken nugget. Ketchup. Mommy cannot do anything right now, Sabrina. Mommy work on it. I know you're hungry. Ketchup down there. Ketchup ready for this. Yes, ma'am. You are the best helper.
Oh, the ketchup?
Which are you? What mommy gonna do?
Mommy cooking. Elsa?
She hungry?
Yeah, me.
Brian, throw to that to the trash. You done?
Go dogs go. Dog. Big dog. Big dog. Little dog.
Okay, Sabrina, here.
Big dog. Little dog.
Here. Here, ketchup. Brian, close the computer, please. Brian, line up. Get the baby first, okay, Brian? And you can get last one.
Tina,
Let her to sit down with ketchup.
come on the floor.
I think on the table better, Brian.
She won't
Easy to
look
eat.
inside it. She won't eat on. Here. Whoa. Wow, she can eat ketchup after all. But she wants to eat that. Hey!
On the table, guys.
Come on, Bing. After you play the table.
Yes, pick up her. Thank you, Brian.
How you like to
No screaming, Bina.
She needs to let. Oh,
Brian, I'm gonna hang you.
I'm behaving right now. I'm behaving right now.
Here. Brian, you can sit down if you want.
As you have me on now, you can take that. I'll sit with Sabrina. Now, where did that ketchup go? I'm behind you.
Not funny, Kitty Cat.
Oh, shit. Cat. table.
Because we need to teach her not to screaming. That's why I love Sabina screaming on him. Do you think that is a good idea?
Yeah. Until you're done to catch up. Until you finish to catch up.
Oh my, who do this?
Ryan!
And Ryan, you don't even think you to clean up?
Look. Your chip. At least I have nothing to clean up because I didn't even get it. Now I won't have to waste my time cleaning up. And I can have more time spending. Now I can have more time spending. Now I have more time to spend time with my little sister. Is that right, Mom?
You cannot do this, guy. Mommy just cleaning after you just eating, and now you just make more mess. Mommy cleaning more. This
It
is
was
not
mine.
nice. And that is nice. Oh, you think it's not? Not even say sorry, right? And you are the worst.
Why are you sorry for your mouth?
Ryan, did you say sorry to make a mess?
Oh man, that turned out to be a lot longer.
Huh? What you said?
That was the world's longest phone call.
Thank you for left coffee on the floor.
Mom, we're gonna want more chicken nugget. Also leave. Also Rebina. No, have your own.
Here.
I'm gonna give her a bit more ketchup.
You guys having fun out there?
Yeah.
Did you see that snowmobile that was going across the ice this morning, honey?
Yes.
That was cool, wasn't it?
Loud.
He was going so fast.
Yeah.
He was like, boom!
And then he crashed.
Oh,
No.
he crashed?
No.
Oh,
No.
no? Uh-uh.
He go all the way because he's gonna be starving. He lost more fun. Thank you for let coffee cup on there
Where did I leave it?
on the floor and when the kid all the way in.
No.
That's why, and they clean up all the mess. Guy, what you gonna say with daddy and the shoes?
Sorry, guys. I'm just getting my coffee.
Take off the shoes.
No germ inside here, told
Sorry,
daddy.
guys. Sorry.
That's so feet not in the feet. And you so love me. I really love you one time. You just one time out, please.
Oh, we have time out point. I love it.
Dad, you got one time out, please. You're really close. You're about on 5 time out points.
Who, me?
No, Ryan.
Why?
Actually, he got 1 time out point. So
I thought he's been good today.
no, he hasn't. He didn't clean up his chip mess. He spilled the chips on. Mom had to clean it up. So you're really. So now you and Dad are on
I
time.
am hungry anymore.
Huh? Not really.
I'm not even on my way to time out.
I'm ready to cook for you.
Huh?
You
I'm
are
ready to cook for you. Just let me
ready
stand.
for the
I'm good right now. Where do we head to next?
I can eat, honey. No, I'm not restaurant.
Ah!
I'm done.
I know. The problem is now I've worked myself past the point of being hungry. I'm fine now.
No, you need to eat what I don't care what you're gonna do. But my kitchen not open 24 hours.
Thanks for the nuggets, Mom.
You're welcome. You are the best helper.
That's
You don't
why-
even see the moment of the truth for Sabrina.
Why?
Daddy miss is remember Princess Sabrina.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Daddy miss it.
How'd you guys like it down by the water?
I also break the ice, Dad. One big ice.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. I thought it was a boat.
What you doing?
Sit down so I can see their heads. Ah, ouch.
Eat first.
Yeah, I am. I hope I unplugged the generator.
We're getting cool, guy. You see now all the blue will come up all the way until here.
Huh?
That is gonna be break the ice.
What is?
They
The
keep-
water.
Yeah. How far out can you think you can go? All the way across, I think.
You can go all the way, but you're not gonna try to go to the blue one
Yeah.
because that is past IO.
Because that's the deep water.
It's deep water and it does not have any ice too much.
Yeah. I almost like walking near the docks.
Plug the phone in. Talking my little head off.
So are we going to see a waterfall? Hi, cutie pie. Hi,
Oh,
sweet
shoot.
What? She falling asleep?
No, I'm not happy with that person.
Oh no.
You might as well.
Yeah, she falling
No,
asleep
no,
there.
no, I'll get it.
I'll get it. You just sit down. Oh, poor girl.
Because she be the princess to the No, she be the princess of the sand castle. She sit down and let us bury her. And she not move out until
She has
the big brother right and smash on this.
But I'm the biggest brother. I made her fall.
Oh, you got chicken cooter.
Come on.
Chicken nugget cooter. And wipe this nugget away from her cooter and get stuck up in there.
No, leave.
Oh, I'll get her
Get her on the counter.
back bed so
No,
we all can
she
sit
can sleep long time. And she's not gonna be cranky. It will be nice to on that side.
Uh-huh. She loves
You
that.
let Sabina borrow your bed a little bit, Kevin?
Yeah, I let her borrow it. She loves that spot.
The last time she slept forever on your spot. Same like right, and whatever who get on that spot is take long time to wake up.
Because everybody loves it.
Yes, I think so. I don't know why. Next time I'm gonna go on your spot.
Why? Why?
That is maybe it feel good. I don't know why everyone loves that spot.
I'm chicken
Okay.
finger, chicken finger.
If you want to lay down with Sabrina, it's fine. want some more? You want more or not? Nathan, you don't want chocolate milk?
I do want chocolate.
No.
I think you're never too full for chocolate milk.
Whoa. Banana. Banana. Fine. You're getting your ticket. Time out. You're getting your police. Time out.
Sit down nicely.
I got a new timeout place. The police station. That's the bad block.
No one wants to go there.
And no one wants to go to the police station.
No one.
No one wants to get turned out.
Mom loves the police station. She likes it when they ride a train up on her.
Ryan, it's not a he, it's a her. Ryan, it's a she or her.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think we can sleep here tonight.
She.
I don't know. No.
Dad!
That's where I saw a sign that said
Dad!
but I don't know.
Dad! Mom don't like spoons.
We can go out of here.
2 points. Now you're way past that.
We're going to go see what the office right here.
Mhm.
We pass it.
Ryan, you're already getting
And we can
2
go up
points.
here in 15 minutes
now.
for the big beautiful like
If you make
superior
it the 4th.
from this side go to silver.
Womp, womp, womp. Time out.
I said
And
we
now
can
you're
make it
getting
here.
close to that because
What
you
the
have
fuck
2 more
today here?
points.
And
You're gonna do
maybe
your
I don't know. We
agent.
can spend. I think we need to spend the night here because tomorrow is gonna be.
That's the timeout spot
Oh.
for Sabrina.
Fly out tonight. I don't know what time now. Because we go over there like superior, and we can do all that
Sabrina
stuff.
doesn't have any
We
timeout.
have some.
She never stays
Nice
there.
pictures.
So.
It's 2:30 right now.
Is maybe gonna sleep
You
over
could
there.
teach me that, please.
Or wherever we find a spot to park
Please.
for the night.
Okay,
Or the area.
3 points.
We might find a better spot on top of one of these mountains. You never know.
You
Mm-mm,
are
no,
gonna make it
no,
harder than the timeout did. Just to
Thanks for the hot
count.
dog, baby.
I have one more over
Yeah.
here.
1, 2,
I wait for this. Is
Ryan.
so hungry down there.
I mean,
I think you're out of
still.
propane in there.
Three,
I have 2 more.
I
still.
know, but I think it's hot right now. You have to make sure you unlock it because that leaks.
Why?
Because nice shirts.
Ryan,
Calling Ryan shirts now. These more shirts.
Ryan, best behavior.
Why?
Best behavior for no timeout, and you already got 3 points. Because he's
He's
3
being good.
3 points because
I
after
can say he can be better than that.
I told him give me the keychain and he like, and then I give him 3 points. We're gonna do the agent, guys. So he's really close. 1 more point and then timeout. You better be good because I can buy those minus those points.
I think he'll be good. No?
No.
No, now he's looking good. Shorts is licking the finger and touching all of our stuff.
That is the germ. You're just like that, Graham. We just complained to him about the shoe. You are the same thing. Here's an okay then.
His name is no longer Ryan. It's called Shirts.
Hey, shirt Hey, shirt.
Hey, Ryan, you came back.
Hey, Ryan. Hey, Ryan. Oh,
Ryan, shirt,
shirt.
Riley.
The shirts is back.
Shirt is back.
Show your mom who shirts is.
Don't worry, the Spider-Man is not going to be longer for him.
Pretty soon that's going to be Sabrina's shirt.
No,
Hey,
it's going to
sure.
be long before.
That's gonna be your shit.
Pretty sure this shirt will be Peyton's shirt. And Peyton's shirt will be
Vad
Ryan's
är
shirt.
memoritfågeln?
The chicken
Huh?
shoe. And chicken shoe. Suda. So,
We done for 1 cup of water?
Mhm.
What is that? Bill? Sure. Oh, yeah. You're talking about a square, right? Please. Yeah. But didn't you say jails? Jail doesn't. Jails have lines.
What is my memory card? I really
That
want
you
to add on
made
that one for
with
me.
them.
It's in my drone. The 32 gigabyte one we had.
I really want to put on that
Yeah, we can do that.
first. Because it's
It's the reason I can't get
Yeah.
the best.
on my phone first. Because right now I want to copy it.
Ryan, I can minus the points. It should be super
What?
good.
Put it
I
back.
can minus those points. Right now, Dad, excuse me. So, Dad, you got 1 point because you still have your shoes on. Ryan, you got 3 points because you didn't pick up your chip mess. You were, what else did you do? Oh, I know. You were playing around.
Honey, you have something that I can poke through this little
Now
hole
you
here?
have 4 points because
Right there, hang on there.
you
You see on your curtain. They have to
There
pin.
we go.
Ah.
I thought you stick your tongue out. So that's not okay. That still counts as doing.
Let them talk to him. Just prepare ready to ride the bus out.
I'm gonna be sleepy by the time I finish this.
Are you gonna be with Sabrina?
Now the
That is
next
not bad
season.
idea. That is a good idea.
I want to know what's being
That is his bed. You need to ask him. Or put it down. Peyton, you want kitty cat or you done? Peyton, put the computer back in your. Honey, you might know.
Yeah.
Don't do that, honey. Put in his bag.
I don't know where it is.
Right aside. He put it.